Hi, I'm Tom, you're watching Sony 365, and in this video I'm going to be comparing the Xperia 1 Mark II with the Xperia 1 Mark III. And actually, this is going to be one of the trickiest videos I think I'll ever have made. This is going to be tough, but let's get into it right now. Oh, before I get into it any further, if you're not already subbed, make sure you do sub, because we've got the 1 Mark III full review coming up and some other fun stuff. And then we finally move into all of Sony's other really exciting products, the speakers, the TVs, all that good stuff. And smash the notification bell if you feel like doing that too. Right, these phones. So what I want to find out is, if you have a 1 Mark II, is it worth upgrading to a 1 Mark III? If you have an older phone, is it worth upgrading to a 1 Mark III, or perhaps getting a super duper deal on a 1 Mark II? That's the kind of the purpose of this video. And also I want to talk about the differences between them and how I feel, because I've been living with the Xperia 1 Mark II for, I don't know, almost a year now. And I absolutely love it, as you probably know if you've been watching Sony 365. So design-wise, absolutely hands down, the 1 Mark III is a win. It's the better phone in terms of how it looks, in my opinion. It probably doesn't matter too much though, because you're going to want to put a case on these, I would have thought. You certainly should do. I haven't, which is naughty. Cases aren't all that easy to get hold of, but I've asked for a few to be shipped down to me so I can give you a review on the different cases available. In terms of, at the bottom here, USB Type-C on both, 3.1 of course, volume rocker, all that makes sense. They have the headphone jack, both of them, which we love. In terms of, on this side, the addition here is the Google Assistant button on the 1 Mark III, and I suspect it certainly seems to be the case that about 99.9% of you either don't care about it or don't want it. But Jerry in Sweden, you love it. Jerry, this is for you. It seems that Sony have done this. Enjoy it, use it a lot, please. Can it be remapped? Not without using third-party apps. I didn't want to do that, so I haven't done it. The good thing about it, I'm not a fan of it, by the way, is you can just ignore it. It's a little bit recessed, so you won't hit it accidentally. I'd rather it wasn't there personally, but I don't care. If it can be remapped easily by, Sony software, I'd be even happier. Then of course, we've got the displays. The big difference here, of course, is on the 1 Mark III, we have got that 4K, but with 120 Hertz refresh rate. Actually, it feels even better than that with the 240 Hertz motion blur. That is a wonderful thing. So when we get down to here, now, because this is a world first, I want to get the wording right. When the rumors for this phone first came out, I thought there was a chance that Sony was going to try and out Samsung. They haven't. They've done it a different way. We don't have crazy, what do they call it, space zoom? But there's some very nice smooth transitions there we can get. And I understand Sony's point. They didn't want to go so far that the end result is not an attractive image, which, makes sense. So that's the way they've done it. They're the two world firsts that I can remember. Oh, and then there's the 360 reality and spatial audio stuff, which in terms of the speakers on the phone, which I'll come to in a second, that wasn't really doing it for me. As an effect, once or twice, great, but that's it. So that's the kind of the design. It's a win for the 1 Mark III. So the thing is, let's talk about the displays. We'll come on to the camera tech and other stuff later. And of course, I'm going to give you my verdict at the end of this video on what I would do. The display on the 1 Mark II was already fantastic, but is it worth having, and is it great having the extra 120 Hertz refresh rate? Absolutely, I like that very much. But the thing is, this display on the 1 Mark II was already enough to embarrass basically every other phone going. So, we're very, very close to something amazing with this. This is just a bit more amazing. But the reality is, this phone is at the very, very bottom end of what's acceptable if you want to watch back content or see what you're doing, see your phone when you're in really bright sunshine. This is better. But it's still not even close to where the Samsung Galaxy S21 Ultra is, and I'm going to show you that in another video. So yes, if you're in a very bright country, that is a factor I would definitely consider. Having said all of that, yeah, if it's important to have a really bright screen, neither of these are going to be your guy. Now let's talk about the speakers. They are more than a little bit better, I would say, because there's a little bit more information overall, but the volume is genuinely much more convincing, which I find really useful, actually, just for things like Zoom meetings and all that kind of stuff that we have to do nowadays. That's a more useful everyday feature for me. Now let's talk about the camera tech, because what was the worst thing about the One Mark II? A lot of us would say, me included, it was the front-facing camera, which wasn't very good at all. I've worked out what the problem was. It was the fact that I was taking selfies of me when it should have been Leah taking selfies of herself, which she has done for us very kindly now. So check these out. This is the difference between the two. It's interesting. Well, let me know what you think. I'm not just going to tell you what I think of all these pictures. I want to know what you think. But I would say it's better than before, but at the same time, it's still the same Samsung lens. Sony doesn't like us to talk about the fact that it's a Samsung lens, or they don't talk about that fact. And there are plans at Sony to de-Samsung their lens setup, which is a good idea if you ask me. Funny that that hasn't happened a long time ago, why it happened in the first place, taking the Samsung lenses there. But it looks a bit better, it's a bit more usable, I like it, it works well enough. I never take selfies. If you do, it's worth just considering that. So we flip the phones around now. On the other side here, yes, we do have that extra kind of telephoto kind of room to operate. As I said before, it isn't crazy zoom. Sony didn't want to go down that route, I don't blame them. It's a nice little extra. It isn't as big a deal as I thought it would be. All that really cool stuff that we had on the One Mark II, the autofocus there for animals and humans, that is still there. And I don't know, I absolutely love that. I think it's great fun, especially with pets. I mean, I like the dogs there. But yes, that is really good. It's not as big a deal as I thought it was going to be. So I just wanted to really get that out there. It's technically extremely clever, and I think where Sony goes with it next and in the future is going to be really interesting. But right now, yeah, I like it. It's good to have it, but that's it. I hope I've done that justice. I think that's fair. Yes, I do. I'm trying to make sure everything I say here is incredibly fair and no one's going to get bent out of shape. Doesn't always work out, but yeah, I'm happy with that. That's fair. Okay, so when it comes to taking pictures, of course, both of these phones have the dedicated shutter button. It's a bit more fancy and textured, of course, on the One Mark III, which is actually, you know, I like that very much. It's easier to just get a grip of it and feel confident that you've got the phone and you're going to get the image you want. The apps, of course, are more streamlined. You've got the basic mode within the Pro app, as it were. That makes it easier to navigate and get around. That's definitely a step in the right direction. I really appreciate that. In terms of the overall performance, they're both so quick. You have to really, really, really work hard to push them and make a difference. You know, you get a 30-watt fast charger in the box with the One Mark III, that's really nice. But the thing that I absolutely love is that you've got reverse wire. Do you remember we had this debate on the channel a long time ago? I didn't think that Sony would give us the power share option. They have. I know a lot of you aren't into it, or some of you aren't into it, but I love the fact that it's there, because there are moments where I just need that little bit of extra juice there in the WF-1000 XM4s. And of course, they don't need to charge for long before you've got enough for your workout. I really like that. It's just a nice thing to have. But generally speaking, the 4,500 milliamp hour battery here, which is obviously bigger than the 4,000 one here, doesn't make any difference, really, because I suppose the screen is needing more of that battery power. So you're not losing any battery power, but you're not gaining any either over the One Mark II. So it's definitely worth flagging that. Generally speaking, UI-wise, of course, you know, there's a little bit more going on with the One Mark III, but it's so minimal. It's basically, for the most part, exactly the same experience. And that leads me on now into the verdict. You see, this is, okay, I don't want anyone to get bent out of shape, but I'm just going to say how I think it is. If you're currently rocking an Xperia 1, it does make sense to jump up to the One Mark III. If you're rocking a One Mark II like I am, I'd feel really kind of like I'd love a One Mark III. And don't get me wrong, you know, if I was super flush and throwing money around, yes, I would go for the One Mark III. But the differences are significant, but not enough for me to have to deal with the hassle of selling the One Mark II to then go out and buy a One Mark III. Having said that, if we got to, you know, Black Friday and there was a really cracking deal and I'd had the 1 Mark II just that little bit longer, I might be tempted. But right now, as things stand, I'm going to say the 1 Mark III is clearly better. And if you're coming from a 1 or older phone, this is just sensational. If you want to save some money and get the 1 Mark II instead, even if you're coming from an older phone, there is nothing wrong with that. The only thing you've got to be aware of course, is you'll be joining the party a little bit late, so you're not going to get 3 years of updates from the point where you buy it. It's going to be more like 2 if you pick that up now. But you're getting that saving, and you're getting a very, very similar overall experience and a very Sony experience here, whichever one of these phones you choose. You know how I feel about the 1 Mark II and the 1 Mark III. They are easy phones to live with. I love the 21:9 form factor. They're both light. They're just wonderful phones, so you can't go wrong whichever one you choose. I hope all that information helps you arrive at a conclusion if you're gonna think about making this decision. Anyway, I'm Tom, thank you so much for watching. Do follow us on social media. I've gone from Panama City in Panama to Miami, what's it called, Ocean Drive, and then to a kitchen in Wales where I filmed myself, and now in a friend's studio in Cardiff. Soon I'll be back in London, and after that, who knows. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.